I've spent my entire career in the BPO industry, which means I'm no stranger to the graveyard shift. But every time I join a new company, I don't just ask about the KPIs or how good is the coffee here. I find the senpais who have been there the longest and ask the real burning question. By Junjun ba dito? Hello everyone, I'm Repolio, the internet's self-proclaimed paranormal investigator VTuber, and today's Cabbage Juice, we are tackling an urban legend born in the flickering fluorescent lights of the BPO industry, the urban legend of Junjun. This case is personal. Having worked the graveyard shift myself, I've heard the whispers, but I've also felt the chill. You see, in the production floor and the exact bay where I spent my nights just happened to be the favorite spot where Junjun appears. Before we dive into the chilling eyewitness accounts, we need to answer the big question. What exactly is a Junjun? In the BPO world, it's our universal code name for the ghost lurking in the office. Why a kid's nickname? Well, calling out for Junjun feels a lot less terrifying than whispering multo in a dark hallway. Multo, by the way, means ghost in Filipino. Whether it's a middle-aged man or a little girl, if it's dead and haunting the pantry, it's a Junjun. One quick PSA though. In the Philippines, Junjun is also slang for, how do I say this without offending YouTube? It also means the male reproductive organ. So, if you're out there here asking for Junjun, please be specific. Otherwise, you might end up in a sketchy area full of sweaty macho men who dances for a living. You've been warned. But if that's your kind of thing, no judging here, by all means, be my guest. The legend of Junjun first chilled the nation in 2017 when it was first featured on Kapuso Jessica Soho, the crown jewel of Philippine investigative journalism. In the viral Gabi ng Lagim episode, BPO employees shared a bone-chilling accounts of a faceless young boy wandering their office halls. Far from being a quiet spirit, Junjun is known to be playful, famously photobombing a group of employees during a break at a fire escape. But why does a child haunt a high-tech call center? The rumors are heartbreaking. Legend has it that during a company event, an employee had no choice but to bring her son to work. Because the production floor was off limits to unauthorized personnel, the boy was left to wander the building alone. Driven by the restless curiosity of a bored child who went exploring, only to meet a tragic end when he became trapped in a malfunctioning elevator. The name of the boy who died was Junjun. Today, Junjun remains a staple of the night shift. He doesn't just fuck the halls. He targets sleep-deprived agents, manifests in the background of office selfies, even most terrifyingly, disrupt live calls with the sound of a child's laughter. For a call center agent in the Philippines, Junjun is a haunting reminder that some customers never truly hang up. Now that we got the terminology out of the way, let's get into the legend itself. Now, a quick disclaimer. I'm what you called a balanced skeptic. While I've had my own unexplainable brushes with the paranormal, which I'll definitely cover in a future video, I also look for the logic. Like AJ from the Y-Files. I'm a huge fan, by the way, shout out to Tacklefish. I believe science can explain a lot, but not everything. I haven't seen the specific Junjun with my own eyes, but the accounts from my colleagues are hard to ignore. So let's start with the one that hits closest to home, the very bay where I used to work at. Back in 2023, when everyone was being forced back into the office after years of working from home, I was minding my own business during lunch break. I was tucked away in a corner, blissfully enjoying some convenience store fried chicken and rice. My coworker from web design, a guy I bonded with over Tekken and VTubers, started telling a story about a recent supernatural encounter he had in the office. At first, I didn't catch much because I was too distracted by the glorious taste of deep fried MSG. But when I heard the name Junjun, my interest was immediately piqued. Being a sucker for a good ghost story, I leaned in. Bro, wait, I asked. Is there actually a Junjun in the office? Yeah, he replied, his face turning serious. There is. I saw him just last week. Naturally, I begged for the details. He leaned in and began. It happened during the graveyard shift. He and his supervisor were the only two people in the building since their team starts earlier than everyone else. While they were grinding away on the client's website, my coworker decided to close his eyes for a second to rest them from the screen strain. When he opened them, he happened to look toward the dark, unlit bay across the room. There, standing in the shadow, was an eerie, unworldly figure. It looked like a man in his mid-30s, dressed in typical office attire, staring at him from the darkness. His first thought was that he was just hallucinating from sleep deprivation, probably from playing too many games the day before. He rubbed his eyes and looked again, expecting the man to be gone. He wasn't. The man was still there and blinking. My coworker's eyes drifted down to the man's leg, and his blood ran cold. The figure had no feet. He was just floating in midair. The entity didn't move, just stared. I asked him, where did Jinjin appear? My friend didn't say anything and pointed directly at the bay where I worked at. The story gave me chills, but it also lit a fire of curiosity. The next day, instead of killing time at the mall, I headed straight to the office early to see if I could catch a glimpse of Junjun myself. Entering the pitch black office alone felt heavy. An eerie presence seems to cling to the air. I tried to tell myself I was just paranoid because of the story, but the feeling was undeniable. I flicked on the lights and stared at my desk. There was no ghost. This reminder that I'll be working the entire night. Eventually, I got tired and decided to take a nap in the empty sleeping quarters while listening to a podcast. Nothing happened to me that night, but later on, two of my friends had a much darker experience. They both suffered from the terrifying sleep paralysis in those same quarters, claiming a demon appeared before them. Was it the curse left behind Junjun? Or was something else lurking in the office? I never got my answer. One by one, my friends resigned, leaving me behind. Eventually, I left the company too, and I haven't heard an update on Junjun since. Some things, I suppose, are better left in the dark. If you caught the part where my friend checked to see if the man had feet, there's a chilling reason for that. In Filipino culture and Asian folklore in general, the feet are the ultimate giveaway. The easiest way to tell if you're looking at a living person or a restless spirit is to look down. If their heels don't touch the ground or worse, they have no feet at all, you are not talking to a human. You're staring at a ghost. By late October 2024, I had just walked away from the company where Junjun haunted my desk. I was sitting in the lobby, waiting for an interview at a new firm, surrounded by a group of fellow applicants. One woman in the group was incredibly chatty, the type of person who talks to anyone just to kill the pre-interview nerves. We cycled through the usual topics, work history, love lives. I mostly just listened to that part, the love life, and eventually, since it was nearly Araw ng Patay, or All Souls Day, the conversation drifted toward the supernatural. Naturally, the name Jinjin came up, but then she shared a story that made the lobby feel a few degrees colder. She told us about the middle-aged man at her old workplace who was pulling a grueling graveyard shift. Exhausted, he headed to the sleeping quarters for a quick nap. One day passed, then two. By the third day, when he still hadn't emerged, a security guard went in to check on him. The second the guard touched the man's shoulder to wake him up, he realized something was wrong. The body was unnaturally cold. The paramedics were called, but it was too late. He had been dead for days. The cause of death was a heart attack due to stress, lack of sleep, and caffeine overdose. The company cleared out the room and informed his family, but things got weird. Despite the man being buried, his name kept popping up on the company's attendance log. Every single day, like clockwork, his account was clocking in and out for his shift as if he had never left. The IT department, assuming it was a glitch, dug into the system. What they found terrified them. It wasn't a bug. Someone or something was manually entering his credentials to log him into his workstation every night. In the BPO world, your login is your identity. No one had those credentials but him. It was as if his spirit was so used to the grind that even death couldn't stop him from reporting for duty. The story became a legendary warning in that office, which is how the woman heard it. Personally, I took it with a grain of salt. Maybe he'd shared his password with a friend or a supervisor who was trying to keep his stats alive for some reason. By 2025, I had moved to a new department where I met my closest friend, who was also my senpai of 10 years, and where I experienced having the best supervisor throughout my career. One night, I found myself bored. I had already hit my quota and needed a distraction. My job involved scrubbing the darkest, most disturbing corners of the internet so the general public wouldn't have to see them. You can probably guess what that entails, but I'm not allowed to say more. Since I spent my days looking at real life horrors, my mind naturally drifted towards the supernatural. I turned to my friend, who was slacking off just as much as I was, and whispered, "Bro, is there a Junjun in this office too?" Didn't even blink. "Of course there is." "Really?" I asked, leaning in. "Really?" He replied, and then he told me the story. Years ago, while this building was still under construction, an engineer came to the site for a final safety inspection. He was meticulous, checking every bolt and wire to ensure the building was functional. Eventually, his inspection led him to the edge of an open elevator shaft. In a freak accident, a sudden, powerful gust of wind swept through the skeletal floor, pushing him into the abyss. He fell to his death before the building was even finished. Now, years later, the engineer is a permanent resident. He's often seen wandering empty floors or riding the elevators alone. There have been chilling accounts from employees riding the lift late at night. The elevator will suddenly stop on a dark, vacant floor. The doors slide open and the engineer steps in. He rides in silence beside you, only to step on another floor and vanish into thin air. I told my friend that I actually prefer riding the elevator alone because I like the extra space. He just grinned and said, "Better be careful. One of these nights, the engineer might decide he needs a lift." It gave me the chills, but old habits die hard. I still ride the elevator alone. Sometimes, when the door opened unexpectedly on a dark, quiet floor, I find myself holding my breath, half expecting the engineer to step inside, but so far, he hasn't shown up for our meeting. The legend of Junjun is easily one of the most fascinating urban legends I've ever encountered. Unlike ancient folklore, this is a ghost story born of the modern era, a digital age myth fueled by high-speed internet and the high-stress world of the night shift. Because we live in such a connected world, Junjun's story has spread like wildfire across the Philippines. Thousands of people have shared their own chilling encounters online. If you search for Junjun stories on YouTube, you'll find a rabbit hole of paranormal encounters. However, since most of these are told in Filipino, I wanted to share them with the rest of the world. Who knows? You might start using the term yourself. Maybe there's a Junjun in your office right now, standing in the dark corner, silently watching as you type away. Just remember, if you want to know if that entity is a ghost or just a co-worker having a very bad day, look at the feet. If they aren't there, well, you better start praying. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Diving into this urban legend was absolutely fascinating, and honestly, I wanted to include every single Junjun story I've ever heard. But if I did that, this video would be hours long and my throat would probably give out from exhaustion. especially in this brutal Philippine summer heat. It's basically hell on earth over here right now. Because of that, I handpicked only the stories that I personally heard from people I know, the ones that actually gave me the chills. Also, link to my sources, or rather source, since I only use one, is down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a thing. If you're looking for some chaotic fun, come hang out with me on Twitch. I'm a traditional VTuber who loves streaming games, and full disclosure, I occasionally rage and play badly on Valorant. Ay gago, bobo. Sorry na, I'm sorry. Daddy. I'm sorry. For more news and update, you can also follow me on X. That's all for today. I'll see you in the next one. This is Repolio, aka Cabbage, signing out. Hello everyone. I'm Repolio, the internet's self-proclaimed paranormal investigator VTuber. In today's Cabbage Juice, we are tackling an urban legend born in the flickering fluorescent lights of the BPO industry, the urban legend of Junjun. This case is personal. Having worked the graveyard shift myself, I've heard the whispers, but I've also felt the chill. You see, the production floor on the exact bay where I spent my nights just happened to be the very It happened during the graveyard shift. He and his supervisor were the only two people in the building since their team starts earlier than everyone else. While they were grinding away on client's website, my coworker decided to close his eyes for a second to rest them from the screen strain. When he opened them, he happened to look toward a dark, unlit bay across the room. There, standing in the shadows, was an eerie, unworldly figure. It looked